From viral memes to pack rallies, the MAGA youth movement is taking the internet and the country by storm. Young conservatives are stepping up and speaking out, and they're reshaping the political landscape like never before. But what's fueling this surge, and how can the right harness this momentum for the future? Joining us now to break it all down is Blaze Media's digital strategist, Logan Hall. So Logan, thanks for joining us. Let's get into this youth movement. So what is driving young Americans to join MAGA? Because this is something that we haven't seen on the right in quite some time.
Yeah, President Trump boasts about this a lot, that he had this big presence on TikTok, and he famously kind of captured a lot of the youth movement when that was traditionally something that the Democrats do in these big presidential elections. I think part of this is Matt and I were talking about this earlier. There are a few things at play here. Number one is, I'm 29, so I'm still like sort of on that younger end a little bit. But when I got involved in politics, I was about 20 years old. And so for pretty much my entire adult life, President Trump has just dominated the conversation. There's been no one like him, no national figure that has care. And this is partially due to just how terrible the media is, because they can't focus on anything but him. But the not our media, but the legacy media, obviously. But that he has dominated the headlines and news cycles for the past 10 years just endlessly. So when you compare that to who do the Democrats have, I guess, Joe Biden or Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer, they don't really have anything to compete on that front. They don't have anybody to sort of speak to the youth to. Trump talked about the American dream during the campaign. When was the last time anybody talked about the American dream for young people? I think another thing at play here is that young people aren't getting a lot of their news from traditional sources like Fox News or CNN, et cetera. They are largely online, and I think a lot of the energy online has been geared towards sort of this right-wing sort of national patriotic. I wouldn't even say a lot of them are conservative. I know a lot of my young friends who had never voted before voted for President Trump in this election, because after the assassination attempt, especially, they said enough is enough. Like, what is going on? We cannot have this in America. I think another thing at play as well is the sort of being able to be proud of your country. Trump speaks to that. The Democrats, they have zero message for young people. Their message is, we hate you, you're terrible. Especially for young men, they have no appeals that they make whatsoever. They are largely just a party dominated by old hysterical women, and I think a lot of America's youth can recognize that. They're tired of the school marmy sort of always constantly lecturing you instead of trying to actually help you.
So, I mean, these are fascinating points. It really is true for people need to realize you're on the old end of the scale of what we're going to talk about here, 18 to 39-year-olds. Yep. But there are a number of people for whom Trump has been the largest figure on the right, just dwarfing everyone else. Yeah. For a long time now. Yeah. And now all of a sudden it's starting to click. So let's look at some of these numbers. I mean, Trump has a 56% approval rating among 18 to 39-year-olds. And this is higher than the other age groups. 56%, 18 to 39. Like, that's remarkable. On the flip side of that, only 28% of this same group strongly disapproves of Trump.
Yes.
So that's not a lot of hate, and that's a lot of love. A majority love coming from younger voters. And then if you look at the oldest end of the spectrum, here's what's actually even more fascinating. You say, like, these old school marms or whatever, 65%, 65 plus disapprove of Trump most by age. I mean, so the people who are the haters are the ones, no doubt, still watching, legacy cable and reading the New York Times assiduously as if it's, some kind of organ of truth.
Yes. Yeah. There's definitely a breakdown with, like, sort of the issue of the information that people are getting. I think, like, in terms of the older populations, yes, as you said, Matt, that kind of goes back to where they are getting their news from. But in terms of just the young people, especially, I'm 29, like you said, I'm not just like in high school or fresh out of college, but even I remember, just growing up, I remember America back before, like, everything got so crazy. So I remember going like through Ohio, even when I was back, 12, 13 years old. Yeah, our factories were sort of hollowed out, but there was still something it still felt like America. You know what I mean? And when I go back to Ohio now, I see some of these, and especially near where I grew up outside of Cincinnati, Lockland, Ohio, is this nice little village. They were our main rival in school. And in the past 4 years, they have taken in I think it's somewhere around like 3,000 immigrants from Mauritania. It's some like small Muslim country in Africa. What are these people doing here? So I think especially for 18 to 29-year-olds, it feels like their country is slowly being transformed into something that they did not grow up with, and it's not what they remember. And it's like, okay, well, maybe we could take on these people if my prospects were feeling good. But as homes are increasingly unaffordable, as cars and car insurance and all of these bills are packing up and stacking up, you feel like you kind of got the short end of the stick there for a lot of young people, especially. And I would say as sort of a warning to the conservative side is that you do not want to tell these people, if you want them to stay around, you do not want to tell these people that like they have to settle for less. Okay. This is their country. This is America. It's not for the rest of the world. We're not some global like economic zone. You are American. And Trump spoke uniquely to that. I think Vance does as well. I think that is part of why that they have gained so much support from the youth, is because they treat America like it's an actual nation and not a strip mall like the rest of a lot of our leaders do.
I think that's so important that you pointed out, and this is something that I was pointing out on the campaign trail as well, is that Trump said, you actually can have an American dream again. Nobody... It seems so simple, right? Like, this is the thing that we grew up with. Like, this was just, it was everywhere. It was plastered everywhere. But for some reason, politicians have gone away from that. And Trump said, no, you can do this. This can be something that you can aspire to. Yep. And I think that you see that on the flip side now with all the USAID and all the Doge stuff that we see. And we're like, wait, we know that we're the richest country in the world. But like, is it okay if we don't give away like every taxpayer dollar to another country?
Well, yeah. You feel like you've been sold out, right?
Yeah.
Trump just did a press conference where he was revealing some of this. $10 million for circumcisions in Mozambique.
Yeah. Yes.
Why am I
It's a
paying
real
taxes
news story.
for that? Yes. It'd be one thing if I were paying taxes and things were getting better in my community or around the country, if I could see the progress that it was going towards. Right. But everything just seems to be getting worse, and your standard of living seems to be gradually declining. So, like, what is going on?
You see, like, the cleft palate kids in Africa, and you're like, okay, like, I could understand that, but, like, come on. Yeah. Some of these things that they throw out there.
Yeah, it is sort of, I think people are very tired of, and Matt's talked about this, that this is actually the beginning of the 21st century now, of way that, how we can sort of, like, repave this American way of life. But this, like, global project where we're like building up all of these other countries while we neglect our own is done for. And I think a lot of young people are fed up with that and are done with that.
It's interesting. It's basically a return to realism. Yep. It's because people in this age range have to actually still make it in this country. And when people basically acknowledge the American dream is dead, that's sort of what Trump was doing, by the way. He was saying, we're going to bring back the American dream. You've heard of it? You remember that? Like, we're going to do that. They're saying, no, you don't have to live this way. I think that is very much part of him speaking powerfully. But, we should bring up your own talents in speaking to young and old alike. You achieved a remarkable milestone this weekend in that the President of the United States was Napoleon posting.
Yes, he was. Yes. And probably my proudest moment online. It all paid off since I started just as a humble, yes, there it is. Yeah, and I think this also kind of taps into what young men are feeling, especially that we don't want these like old, decrepit politicians. Like Trump is 78 years old, and yet he speaks to the youth better than a lot of these younger politicians do, and especially the older ones. But this is because he taps into a sort of great man of history sort of aspect that you can rescue your country. We don't have to live like this. We don't have to live like serfs in our country. That's not what America was founded for. And if you just take a couple steps back and look at it, you have to say, like, okay, America can go this way or they can go that way. And we're not going to do this like same old stupid game that you've been playing. We are taking our country back.
So if you put that up again, let's see this tweet here, because what happened was Trump himself put out the quote, and then he gave really an acknowledgement to you for putting up the quote by retweeting you in this fashion online, and this caused almost an international controversy. Almost every cable show, every podcast was talking about this tweet. So what is your interpretation here? Because you could see some people saying, like, well, I don't know, this makes me kind of uncomfortable. What is trying to be said? And of course, as soon as I saw it, I was laughing hysterically because I knew the left was going to go crazy and say that Trump is some kind of dictator and a bunch of other garbage. But speak to what this means.
Yeah, so the quote is, he who saves his country violates no law. And I think one of our congressmen from Texas actually put this really well, that after 4 years of Jacobin terror, do not be expected when Napoleon comes. This is sort of the thing that Tucker was saying when he said, Daddy's home. Okay, we're not playing this game anymore. So I think what this taps into, I get that some people could say, like, yeah, this might feel a little like, I don't know if that's how we want to go with this thing. I was talking to our CEO, Tyler, about this, but real Americans love the Constitution. Okay, we love the Constitution. We love the rule of law. We love order. But when you have so much disorder and chaos in a system, you have to restore order somehow. And that's merely what I was advocating for, was a strong man, a strong executive, and in the light of, some may say, you don't have to go to Napoleon for this. You can go to just American history for this. You can go to George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, FDR. You can look for these strong executives that, FDR came out of the Depression. Abraham Lincoln was dealing with the Civil War. You can go to these people who, out of a lot of this chaos and disorder, can bring order to the American system again. And that's merely what I was saying.
That's absolutely true. I want to know what your initial reaction was, because nobody loves Donald Trump more than Logan Hall.
I am his top guy.
If you think you love Donald Trump more, Logan loves him even more. What went through your mind? What did you do? Who did you talk to?
I called every one of my relatives. I texted every one of my best friends. I texted a few of my close work friends. They were all very congratulatory and happy for me, and they said, it probably won't get better than this, so enjoy it. But no, I was very thankful. I know. Especially, this is sort of another thing I was talking about with sort of the right and where they are getting their energy from among this youth. I see there are also a lot of articles that are going around about this now. The Democrats are saying, we are getting trounced online. Mm-hmm. They are destroying us. How do we solve this? And it turns out that the Democrats only had their online audience or energy is completely astroturfed. It doesn't work unless there's trillions of dollars of propaganda propping it up to make people deny reality. But President Trump's team seems that they are very tapped into what's circulating online among the young people, and they're very good at it. So,
all right, Logan, I don't know when your 30th birthday is, but I'm going to throw it out there that tweet should probably be your birthday cake and maybe the entire theme.
That's a great idea. Thank you.